Hi guys, and welcome back to Movies That Matter with the Viking, and episode 1 of DvDs from home. First up is G.I. Joe Retaliation. Now, what does this new series entail for the channel? Well, I've got a huge collection of DVDs and Blu-rays that I want to delve deep into and give you guys reviews for. But look, what I also want to do is I want to review the film, but I also want to look at what the DVD or the Blu-ray offers us as a fan. What does the special features entail? Now, back in the day, there used to be director's commentary, huge special features on DVDs. Now it's kind of hard to come by. Depends what version of the film that you buy. If you buy a Blu-ray, you might get a little bit more content, and otherwise, sometimes you might not get anything at all. But I want to go through all my collection, review the movies, show you what's on these DVDs, and I want to hear your opinions. I want to engage with you as fans and as movie fans of what you think of these films. Now, I've already asked for your opinion on G.I. Joe Retaliation on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter, and you've told me what G.I. Joe means to you. So let's get into it. G.I. Joe Retaliation is the sequel to the 2009 poorly received G.I. Joe Rise of the Cobra. Now, this is a huge franchise, it really is. Hasbro owns this, they own Transformers, and those are huge IPs to obtain. The Transformers franchise has made huge profits for Paramount. Huge profits. Absolutely brilliant money has come in, but that hasn't come through G.I. Joe whatsoever. Now, G.I. Joe Retaliation on a budget of 130 to 155 million made 375 million. It's okay, but it's not to the heights that Hasbro would have expected for this film, this huge property, which has a huge fan base in terms of the toys that they used to sell and in terms of the animated show and all those other comic books as well. It has a big fan base, but it hasn't lived up to that in terms of box office. Now, we haven't seen any more films got to do with G.I. Joe since this one in 2013, but there is a Snake Eyes film in development, which I'm hugely excited for, and has been pushed back to 2021, of course, with the virus. But G.I. Joe Retaliation, directed by G.I.JOE. Now, they completely ignore the events of the first film. They bring back Channing Tatum, they bring back Snake Eyes, they bring back Storm Shadow. Those three are brought back. Cobra Commander is brought back as well, but Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who played Cobra Commander in the first film, doesn't come back. The character comes back, but the actor doesn't. So those three are the only three actors that came back for this sequel. Now, G.I.JOE had a clean slate. He could do what he wanted here. He could really bring something new to the franchise and really get this franchise up and running and get away from the poorly received 2009 version. Now, what this film, Dwayne Johnson is brought into this film as Roadblock, and he's kind of more or less the main guy in this. He really is. It's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He's a bigger star now today than he was in 2013, but he was headlined as the main guy for this film going forward. But also, Channing Tatum was brought back. But spoiler alert: if you haven't seen it, you'll know. You might not know. Channing Tatum was killed off in the first 20 minutes of this film. He hated this franchise. He hated being in these films, and Duke was killed off. And this got a lot of fans kind of surprised. It got a lot of fans angry at the time in 2013. And look, I think it's a pity. I get to that in a second. But it also stars Beon Hunley. He plays Storm Shadow. He's a very good actor. Very, very good actor. And he has a really good arc in this in both films with Snake Eyes, and Snake Eyes doesn't talk. You don't get to see his facial expressions, but Storm Shadow you do, and he's a very, very good actor, and he really makes every scene he is in. He's probably the star of this film. I think he outshines Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Him and Snake Eyes have a brilliant arc of the two films, and in this one it's really, really well done also. Now, it also stars Elodie Yun as Jinx. She's in the film, but she's not really in the film. They could have done a lot more with her character, with Snake Eyes and with Storm Shadow, but that's just the way it was. There's some interesting new characters brought into it. Flint, played by DJ Cotrona. He's okay. His personality and stuff is nothing to get too excited for. And then you got Adriana Palinki, who plays Jaya. She kind of has a relationship with Bruce Willis's character, not a romantic one, but just kind of more of a father-daughter one. And Bruce Willis is in this film as well. Look, this film, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was probably brought in to save this franchise and bring new eyes to it. And if he was not in this film, would it have made 375 million? I don't think so. I really don't. The film is okay. It's not a bad film whatsoever. It's entertaining. What I will say is the action is very, very well done in this film. It really is. The fight sequences, the explosions, all that stuff is really, really well done. And you can see that they put a lot of time into that and a lot of effort, and it really shows off on screen. Now, this film isn't long. It's under 2 hours. It could have been a lot longer. The interesting characters, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's character isn't really that interesting. After Channing Tatum's character leaves the film, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's character kind of goes down a little bit, because I thought the chemistry between him and Channing Tatum was absolutely brilliant. There's some very funny scenes between the two of them, and it's a shame that they let Channing Tatum go. He hated the franchise, he hated being the character, he wanted to be killed off, which is fair, that's what he wanted. But if they had kept him in this film would have been a lot better than it was. The relationship between the two of them was outstanding, and it would have only got better after that, because the chemistry was there, the humor was there, and there's some very, very funny moments. Bruce Willis brought into this film as well as another big icon action star. Probably got a lot more of attention to the film than it would have, but they underused Bruce Willis big time. Now, I don't know if Bruce Willis didn't just want to do anything, but he's supposed to play this old extraordinary G.I. Joe who's now retired. He doesn't really do much in the film. He has a couple of cool one-liners, interaction with the cast, and one or two little cool action scenes, but that's about it. They underused his character so much. If you're going to bring Bruce Willis in, you have Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson there, do something with them. Now, the best scene in this film is between, it takes place in the mountains. It's when Snake Eyes is trying to save Storm Shadow, and all these ninjas are coming after Jinx and coming after Snake Eyes, and they're on the side of this mountain, and they're using kind of they're tied out of the mountains. They're kind of like bungee jumping across, trying to divert the ninjas, trying to save Storm Shadow. And it actually is a really, really well done scene. Absolutely brilliant. The best scene of the film. They put so much effort into that, and you should just go look it up on YouTube. If you don't want to watch the film, go look that up on YouTube. It's really well done, and it was 10 minutes of complete silence. There was no dialogue whatsoever. It was just action, and I was just in awe looking at this. It was absolutely well done. But G.I. Joe Retaliation for me is something that could have been a lot better. It's a missed opportunity. I think Jon Chu does a really, really good job directing this film, and if this had come out first instead of the 2009 one, then I think this would have been received a lot better, and this might have got a sequel, and then Jon Chu going back and doing it a second time would have did a lot better. But I think all the elements were there to make this film really great, and they just failed a small. It's still an enjoyable action film, but if it wasn't called G.I. Joe, it would probably be better than it actually is. Now, Walter Goggins also makes an appearance, a brief appearance in this film, and Walter Goggins in anything for me is extraordinary. I love him as an actor. He's definitely worth checking out. But guys, the special features in this film. Now, there is a director's commentary with Jon Chu and one of the producers, and it's interesting enough. It's okay. You get to see what kind of set pieces they did, what kind of elements they use. It's nothing to write home about. You probably could give it a miss, and it's okay. They also have the true face of evil, where they show the history of Cobra Commander, his different costumes throughout the animated series, through the comic books, and in the films, his different kind of mask. It's interesting if you don't know much about the G.I. Joe series like myself. It was interesting to find out those things. It also has the sound of silence. Now, that scene I talked about in the mountains where there's absolutely no dialogue for 10 minutes, that comes inspired from a comic book that has completely no dialogue in it. It follows Snake Eyes against Cobra Commander and all them. It's a really, really well done comic. They showed on the special features, and I actually really, really enjoyed that, and that's where they got the inspiration from. There's also something that's not on the special features on the DVD that's on the disc. Once you go into it, it looks at the relationship between Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow, which is really, really well done and very, very interesting. Now, but guys, G.I. Joe Retaliation is an okay action flick. It's a missed opportunity in my opinion, but all in all, with the film and the special features, it is worth it. You get to look at the special features, you get to learn the history of the G.I. Joe, you get to learn the history of these characters, how they made the film, where they got the inspiration for this film. But G.I. Joe Retaliation for me is an okay action flick. It's worth checking out for a little bit of fun. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is okay in this, but for me, Channing Tatum, for the small role he has in this film, is absolutely brilliant. Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes are the stars for this franchise and me, and that's what I want to see going forward, is those two characters. For one character who doesn't speak and one character who speaks very little, they show so much emotion. But guys, let me know your thoughts on G.I. Joe Retaliation. Have you seen this? Do you like it? Give a like, comment, subscribe. Come follow me on all the social medias. Come talk about the one thing we love, which is movies. Until next time, guys, G.I. Joe Retaliation is okay. Now, guys, that's my thoughts on G.I. Joe Retaliation, and I took to Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter to ask your guys' thoughts on G.I. Joe Retaliation and what this film means to you, and this is what you had to say. Jacob Byington on Facebook says, I honestly thought it was awesome. I loved Cobra Commander in it as well. And I agree, Cobra Commander had a nice role in it. I loved his suit in the film, his new mask, really, really well done, and maybe he should have been in more of the film. Colton on Facebook says, I like it and own it. I totally agree. I don't regret owning this DVD. I'll definitely go back and watch it in the future. It's a good action flick, something to be gotten out of it. There is enjoyment in it, and for that, I agree. Kaz Bergson on Instagram says, good action with Snake Eyes, the rest sucked, and I'm a big G.I. Joe fan. Yes, action with Snake Eyes is always brilliant, really, really well done. I think the guy who plays Snake Eyes is Ray Park. Very, very good stunts, all well coordinated, and it looks really well on screen. There should have been more Snake Eyes in this film, and I can't wait for that solo Snake Eyes film. Wally Hockey on Twitter says, Lady Jane is from my hometown. I loved seeing Bruce Willis in this great action. I loved how it was less sci-fi, more action. And the action in this is brilliant. And Bruce Willis is very, very good in the film. They just didn't use him enough. They just didn't use his character enough. And the action is really, really, really well done. Chap says, I like the extended cut a lot more. The first movie was a stupid, guilty pleasure of mine. And I'll admit, I went to see the first one in cinemas with my brother, and I had a really good time. I really liked the humour in it from Marlon Wayans. The action was okay. I haven't seen it in a very long time. Maybe I might have a different opinion now, but when I first seen it, I liked it, and I've nothing to say about. Like these two films for me, you can watch them. There's not anything crucially bad about them. Lazarin says both films heavily hated for no reason. They're cash-ins, but I felt the cast and crew of both films give it zany energy. I don't care about G.I. Joe overall, so perhaps that's why. Fun. Maybe that's a lot to say about it. If you're not a big G.I. Joe fan, maybe you'll have nothing wrong with these films. And if you were a big G.I. Joe fan, you would have some hate for these films because they don't stick to the material like they should, maybe. But I will admit the cast for both films, even Shannon Tatum, who hated being in the role, he always gave a good performance. You know, you could see that he had energy in the role. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson brings something new. Bruce Willis has that kind of stone, cold acting, but it was all good for me, and I totally agree with that. Danny Morton says, I really enjoyed Retaliation, Snake Eyes, Storm Shadow, Walton Goggins, what's not to love? And I agree, those three elements for me are big wins in any film, especially Walton Goggins. You know, and Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow, as I said, that relationship, that arc is very good over the two movies, and I'd love to see that explored again in the Snake Eyes movies. But I also hope that they bring back Hun Lee as Storm Shadow. I bug you says, and you do bug me sometimes, but you're also a good guy, says, waste of Bruce Willis. I'll agree. Bruce Willis should have been in more of the film. They should have used him more. But again, Bruce Willis probably didn't even want to be in this film. But yeah, I agree. Scarlett is the best part of the first film, says Michael. And you know what? I miss Scarlett in this film. Not just because she's a very good looking woman, and I'm very attracted to her, but also because she actually had very good chemistry with the cast in the first one. She was actually a badass character, and bringing her back for the second film wouldn't have been a bad idea. So yeah, I'll agree. She was maybe not the best part of the first film in my opinion, but definitely wasn't a bad thing and should have been brought back for the sequel. Kim Mason says, not bad. The Rock and Bruce Willis definitely enhanced my enjoyment of the film. Plus, Ray Stevenson is a treasure. And yeah, any film with The Rock and Bruce Willis will gather your interest straight away. And Ray Stevenson is good in this film as Firefly, but they probably should have used him more. You know, there's a lot of these characters that they could have fleshed out a bit more. Maybe that's because the runtime was so short. It could have done with being 2 hours, maybe 2.5, just to flesh out these characters, offer a bit more development, and get us actually caring about the characters. I actually don't hate this movie like a lot of people do. It's enjoyable in my opinion, says Miles. And I agree with you. Both films for me are enjoyable. You can sit down. There's nothing bad about them. There's some good action. Especially in this one, they take the kind of action a little bit more serious. It's really well done. It doesn't look stupid or anything like that. It's believable to an extent. And yes, I will agree. It's enjoyable. And there's people hate these movies just to hate them. there you have it, guys. That's your thoughts on the film. Thanks very much for sending in your opinions. Got to do with G.I. Joe Retaliation. It's always good to hear from different perspectives, different opinions about film, because to be honest with you, film is subjective. But guys, even if you haven't got to tell me what you think of G.I. Joe Retaliation, let me know in the comments your opinion. I'm really interested in what you have to say.